Hello everyone. I was contacted by this company. It's SFAIH. I'm not sure if that's an acronym or if it's supposed to be pronounced. I wouldn't know how to pronounce it, but anyways, these nice people contacted me and asked me if I would be willing to do a review of their acrylic markers. They do have several tip widths. I asked for fine point. These are 2mm, and let me just show you. I would describe them more as a bullet point. It's kind of a medium width, kind of rounded bullet point tip. So I haven't activated these yet or tried them. I thought I would just do that with you. They come in a nice range of colors, and they have the pigment numbers on the top, which is nice. So we've got some lavenders, a pink range, some kind of skin tones in here. There's just one red, 3 yellows, kind of a yellow green, a couple of greens, kind of a turquoise, and 3 blues, a black, white, and 2 metallics. So it's a fairly nice range. No orange. So I'm hoping that when I go to test these out, that I'll get some blendability. I want to try them like I would normally use them, so I will be testing them on a couple of different papers. I have watercolor paper pulled out. I have a toned paper pulled out. I will try them in one of my art journals that has more of a smooth Bristol paper in it. I also want to try it over white gesso, clear gesso, and also I'm going to see, excuse my head if I'm in the way, I'm going to see if I can mix them with some glazing liquid and see if they're usable that way. I'll test the movability with a wet brush while the paint is wet, see if I can get it to move. And these aren't all necessarily points that you might look for in an acrylic marker, but to me, I want them to work like acrylic paint, like I would use acrylic paint, only have the convenience of being in a marker form so I can get line, fill in small spaces, that type of thing. And then I also want to see how they compare, at least the white, because I have white in the Posca pen and in the Liquitex. So I just want to test the white, like the how much does it absorb into the paper? Does it stay white? You know, how white is it? Those kinds of things. In the box there was a little swatch card, which is nice. It has the numbers and the color names. So I will fill these in, but they're very small. That's maybe a 1/2 inch by a 1/4 inch spot. I have a book of swatches of all my paints and inks and chalks and whatever, so I will also be swatching them in here for my everyday use. I am going to follow the directions on the back of the case, and it has a direction that I have not seen or done before. After you shake it, they want you to hold it with the tip up, press the tip down into the marker and release the air, which is interesting, and then turn it over and press it down like you normally would to allow the paint to start to flow. So I will show you that doing one. Let's do this blue one. And I'm going to grab a piece of paper. So shake it first. Probably shaking my camera, but on this initial activation, you want to shake it pretty good because obviously the solids in the paint and the binders have settled in there somewhere depending on how it was stored or shipped. In general, unless the manufacturer specifies otherwise, you should store your paint markers on their side, store them horizontally. That way, if it does settle, which it will, the paint will settle along the entire length of the marker, and then when you shake it, kind of shake it and turn it and shake it and turn it, and the little ball in there that you hear will more easily mix up all of the paint along the whole depth or the whole length of the marker. If you store them upright like this, most of your pigment's going to settle to the bottom of the marker, and it's going to just take longer and make it harder to mix it all up. Okay, so I'm going to hold it upright and press that down one time. That's releasing the air. And then you just want to hold it on the paper. See if I can zoom in a little bit here. I'll try and hold it a little bit to the side. You can pump it a couple of times. I don't know that that makes a whole lot of difference. You just want the nib into the barrel of the marker where the paint is. So that started pretty fast. So that the paint saturates the tip. And then it should keep marking for you. So you can see it's it's not a thick line, but it's not what I would consider a fine line. I believe my Posca pen that's not a fine line. I have a Posca pen that is a fine line. That Posca is, and then this is a chisel tip. So I don't know if that would be a fair comparison. I will find my Posca paint pen that has the fine tip. And if you've used paint markers before, you know what I'm talking about. It's just a much pointier tip. So that's been activated. I am going to just off camera, I'll activate all of these markers and then move on to some swatching of colors. I'll be back. Okay, I swatched all the colors. It's a nice variety of colors. I had mentioned that there was no orange. This one is as close as we're going to get. It's more of a peachy orange, but a couple nice blues, a couple values of purple. The metallics were nice. I got real nice even coverage with one coat of all of these, including the metallics, which was surprising. The paint flowed really well out of the marker. It took about between 15 and 20 seconds for the paint to completely flow through and cover the nib, which wasn't bad at all. Sometimes I've had markers where it's like, is this paint ever going to come out? So every one of them was within that same 15 to 20 seconds. So that was good. I liked that. The only thing I can say that I didn't like, and I don't know if it's the fault of the marker or the paper, this is, I believe it's Canson paper, so watercolor paper, so it's maybe Strathmore. Let me look. It's Strathmore watercolor paper. It's, 140 pounds, so it's a nice weight of paper. So I'm kind of thinking it's not the paper. It may just be the coarseness of the nib, but it did, I don't know, let me see if I can find one. The white one especially, if I turn it, I think you can see. It picked up little bits of the paper off the surface of the paper. So that I didn't like. I did, when I noticed that happening, I made sure to wipe off the tip of the marker before I recapped it because I didn't want those little paper bits to dry on the marker tip because it would just make it even more coarse and I wouldn't get even coverage. So that's a con. That I didn't like. You can see it on quite a few of these if I turn it just right in the light. Anyway, but other than that, so far I like these. I like the evenness of the color. The coverage was good. I only went over these one time. This one's a little streaky. But overall, they all, covered really well with one coat. So I kind of organized them like all the Y colors. I'm not sure why these are labeled Y, which would be yellow. And then the greens, these are all labeled as yellow. I suppose if there's enough yellow pigment in the color, that's why. And then these are the reds here, blues, the white, the black, and the metallics. So that's that section of this review. I am going to get some pieces of different papers and see how they react and see if they continue to pill up the face of the paper. Okay, I'm going to try these markers on some different papers. This is a Strathmore Tone Tan mixed media paper. It's 184 pound. I want to see if they bleed through. You should always mix the marker up again before you use it. The other thing that I do like is the cap stays on the end nice and tight. I have some acrylic markers and other markers that put the cap on and you go to use it and the cap goes flying away. I'm just going to sit down here. So this is basically what I did when I swatched them on that other watercolor paper, on the Strathmore watercolor paper. This is a smooth paper. I'm not seeing any pilling really. That seems pretty good. If I go with a real light touch, I want to see how thin I can make the line, and then if I press harder, a little bit thicker line. So that's nice. Yeah, it works well on this paper. Bring this up a little bit so you can see it better. The light's kind of weird in here. There we go. It's a pretty color. Kind of a brownish mauve color. But yeah, it did. It kind of pilled the paper right there. I don't know if the camera can pick that up or not, but the grain is raised on the paper there. It didn't pick it all the way up though. I don't know how fast this dries. It's still a little bit damp. The other thing I wanted to try, I might as well leave that out. We'll just keep using that color. I'm going to mix on my glass palette over here. I'm just going to mix some of the paint with the Satin glazing medium and just for fun see what we get. Okay, that's tight, which is good. I'm just going to hold it down and let some of the paint flow out. And I'm just going to take a brush, pick some of that paint up. Not bad, really. I mean, normally you would do this with, you know, bottle or tube acrylics. I was just curious as to the quality of the paint in these markers. But that went on nice and smooth. Yeah. All right, I'm going to try the same thing. I'm going to put some, not the same thing. I want to see what it does over dried gesso. Actually, I don't know if this jar's open. It's not. Some clear gesso down, and I will put some white gesso down, and then I'll hit it with the heat tool and dry it. Because for mixed media, that's generally a lot of what I use. And if I'm doing a painting that I've used gesso on, and I want to add marker to it, I want to make sure that it's going to work well. So I'm just going to put down the clear gesso. There. And put down some white here. And I'm going to dry it off. Okay, that's dry. Gesso does dry fast. Let's try a different color. Let's go with the blue. Actually, that goes down really well, and actually that might be a solution to this marker not picking up the little bits of paper. No, it still did it. I'm surprised that that's happening. Let's see. Let's try the red over here, over the top of the yeah, it goes over fine, and it doesn't, there's no residual pickup on the nibs either, so that's good. It's just that little bit of texture that it creates on the face of the paper. I mean, it's still wet, but you can see it there on the blue. So still, it went over those media just fine though. So I'm gonna mix. I just picked up that tiny little bit that was on my palette of the red and the blue with some glazing medium, just to see if I get any color from that tiny little bit of paint that was there, and kind of did. It may just be the color of the paper being wet. I'm going to just pick up only glazing medium and put it underneath and see if if I really did get color. Oh yeah, I did. So highly pigmented then. I mean, there was just like a dot of red and a dot of blue. You probably could see it on my palette from where I just tested the marker before it went on the paper. And I did get kind of a skin tone there with very, very little paint. So that's good. That is good. All right. So that was the Strathmore Toned Tan paper. This is a Canson watercolor paper, 140 pound. Let's just do the same thing. First the glazing medium with that brownish color. Still, for this size of a nib, I mean, that's, like I said, I would consider that to be a bullet nib. which is a nice size for most mixed media projects. If I needed a really fine tip, then, you know, I have other markers I can go to, or I can use a brush. But what else did we do? Oh, I was going to put down some gesso, and it shouldn't make any difference as far as the paper. Yeah, I mean, I'm pushing pretty hard and scrubbing. I'm getting a little bit of lift. If you use these and that happens to you, I really recommend wiping any little bits of paper off the nib before you recap it. But trying to get it in the light so you can see. There's a little bit of paper lift there. None here at all and it may be just, it's better over white, oops, not dry, over white gesso, because it just makes the paper even smoother. So it would probably be great on a Bristol. I will grab my Dylusions Journal, which has kind of a really smooth kind of Bristol paper. Hang on. Okay, I don't have any pages left, so I'm on the fly page here, but it's the same paper. So let's just, what did we do first? This one. That cap is really tight. I'm purposely going over and over it. Yeah, might as well do the same thing on all the papers, right? I don't think with these mediums it's going to make the paper's going to make a whole lot of difference. It is staying wet on my palette though. The paint is. Let's see, go over that little blue smudge and see. Coverage is good. It's I'm just seeing transparency wise, I added more of the glazing medium. You can get a smooth transition. Yeah, I'm liking these markers. I am. I don't use markers a lot in my work. So therefore I don't have a lot of markers, but I'm going to put some gesso down. We'll just do the same thing here. I'm sure it'll be the same result though, because this is even a smoother paper. And some clear. There was something else I said. Oh, I wanted to see how the markers blend. Let's try that while the gesso is drying. Now, to be fair, I'm going to try to do this quickly before it starts to dry. It is picking up that paper because I'm going over and over it, and it's transferring the color from one nib to the other, which that's not a big issue. I'm just going to wet my brush. Oh, it moves nicely. All right, I was expecting more of a, I almost got that color. I was expecting more of a purple. And you can see the red moved really well. I will pick this up so you can see it better. But right there is where the blue is, and it's still there where the red totally mixed. So that's something that is good to know. I mean, you don't want to be in the middle of a project and then go to mix two colors and have one not move. So that's interesting. All right, let's see. This is dry. Let's see how this goes over top of that. It's good. I mean, there's no transfer. I mean, that was dry, but it's not reactivating or picking that up, which can happen sometimes with water-based media. And it's, like I said, the pigment, it's highly pigmented. I mean, you can't see through that at all, which is why I wanted to see how it worked with the glazing liquid. So let's try and put that on top of this. See if we get a nice transparency. I mean, I'm basically doing what I would do with regular water-based paint or acrylic paint. Yeah, that's nice. Yep, I like it. That's still wet. All right, I'm going to dry this a little bit. It's still wet. Okay. Overall, I really do like these markers. I wanted to see how it compares to the Posca, just as far as transparency, coverage. I haven't used this Posca marker in a long time. Oh, okay, we have a lot of ink coming out of there, a lot of paint coming out of there. Okay, so with the Posca, I can kind of see through. You can see a little bit of the tan poking through there. So it's a little more watery. I mean, it really came flowing out of the tip of that pen. Maybe I needed to mix it up better since I haven't used it in a while. This might not be a fair comparison. I'm trying not to go over. I think that's pretty close to the same coverage. Now this Liquitex, yeah, that's acrylic too. This one, it's probably been 3 years since I used this, so let me give it a good shake. Okay, and this one obviously is the best, but it makes sense. I mean, Liquitex is the more expensive medium, so yeah, that makes sense. But I mean, I think it's pretty comparable. It's a little less, this was the Posca. It's a little less pigmented, but sometimes that's good, you know? Especially like on this toned paper. What I'm going to do is a graphite portrait that I did. I'm not crazy about her. I just want to see what they do over graphite. I can still, because it's diluted, I'm still seeing the graphite shading underneath it. Now if I was going to do that, I probably wouldn't have put the paint on as heavily as I did initially. I would have gone with less and then moved it, but I could make her a really colorful girl. See if I pick some of this other color up here, which is more of a skin tone than the pink was. Not bad. I am overall, I'm impressed, and I'm thankful that these nice folks reached out to me and asked me to do this for you, because otherwise I would have never, like I said, I don't use markers that much, so I would have just continued to use what I already have. And I think these are nicer than most of the, I have a couple cheap sets that I probably don't use very much because I don't like them very much, and I won't mention any brands. But so I think that was a good test. Oh, the other thing I wanted to see, get rid of that, I have this acrylic. This is just acrylic leaf transfer painting, whatever. I wanted to see what color would I want on top of this. Let's try this mustardy color. Just want to see how it goes over a regular acrylic paint. Works good. I just wish I could get a finer line, but it goes over. This is dry probably a week. It goes over really good. Let me just try to lift it now. It only just went down. Not that I wasn't planning on doing anything with this. I was just playing one day with some fern leaves. Yeah, most of it came off. So pretty much everything that I tried worked well. I don't know if I missed anything major in terms of testing. I mean, there's probably a million more things I could try to do with these just to see, but those are the main things probably that I would either mix with them or use them over top of, or on the different papers. So other than kind of lifting the paper, I think if I were going to use them to any great extent, I would definitely put white gesso down first, not the clear. The clear's too gritty. I think that just exacerbated the lifting of the paper. But the white gesso, the surface prep gesso, seemed like it helped with that. So and I wouldn't anticipate myself doing like a whole project with the markers, but I would definitely, if I was doing a mixed media piece, I would use them, maybe 20% of, you know, finishing or detailing or whatever. So anyway, thanks for coming along with this review. I will leave the link, the Amazon link to the marker set in the description box. And they had promised to send me a 10% off coupon. Make sure that if you want to get these markers, you get the discount. So thanks again for watching. If you're not subscribed to my channel, you might want to do that. Check out some of my other videos. I have an extensive playlist of all kinds of different art projects and demos. Hit the bell if you want to be notified of new videos coming out, and give me a thumbs up if you like this video. And in the meantime, go make some art. Bye.